Welcome to Adeptus On Air, the show where we examine how individuals and companies make decisions that drive their business and personal success. Each week we connect with notable professionals who pull back the curtain on the industries that Adeptus has been on the cutting edge of for the last 30 years, including music, sports, and entertainment, as well as new emerging markets.
Hello again, and welcome to Adeptus On Air. Today I am joined by a multifaceted individual. She's a screenwriter, a producer. She's a director, an animator, a mentor for new neurodiverse animators, a freelance journalist, a self-proclaimed multi-hyphenate. Say hello to Marlene Sharp. How you doing, Marlene?
Hi, thank you, Michael. Thanks for the lovely introduction and for the invitation to be here.
No, I appreciate you coming on. I got to tell you, before speaking to you, I was researching and I saw the phrase multi-hyphenate, and quite honestly, didn't know what it was. But I took a guess based upon reading your profile, looked it up, and I was 100% right. You're one of those people that have a lot of hyphens in between all the things that you do, correct?
Exactly, and that term is thrown around a lot here in Hollywood. That's where I am, coming at you from Los Angeles, as well as my co-pilot collaborator Blanche DuBois Sharp. She's also part of the package when I get invited on a show. And so actually we're both multi-hyphenates because we do everything together. So
awesome. So it's interesting. So you started out born and raised in New Orleans. So How does a Southern girl make it out to LA and into the entertainment world?
Well, just lucky, I guess, but also it was carefully orchestrated, I guess, from the time I was small. I knew that I wanted to be in the place where film and TV was made, and I really did want to go to college in Los Angeles, but didn't make that happen. But I was able to go to grad school in San Diego. So I went to San Diego State for an MFA in musical theater. And then after graduating, I moved up the coast, lived for a little while in Orange County, and then eventually made it to Los Angeles, where I parked for a while. And Blanche seconds that. So
I see that. Excellent. So was musical theater your first love into the industry?
Yes, performing was my passion, and still is, quite frankly. So for all of your listeners out there, I am offer only. I don't audition like I used to. I used to do the pounding the pavement auditioning, but my other careers in entertainment behind the scenes took over. And but yes, I performed a lot on stage, and I've done TV and film as well, and I love it. I love all aspects of the entertainment industry. So, but yes, performing was the original dream.
So before we get to the other aspects of entertainment, sticking to the performing for a second, what have been some of the most memorable things in your mind that you've done that you really look back on fondly?
Oh, well, that is easy, because the best acting job I ever had was on a very short-lived NBC sitcom called Come to Papa. And it only lasted 4 episodes, but it was 4 of the greatest episodes in television, and I'm totally unbiased. Steve Carell was one of the regulars, so There you go.
Anything with Steve Carell has to be good.
Exactly. And we filmed on the Warner Brothers lot. I had my own trailer. It was just amazing. It was just a wonderful experience. So it spoiled me for other jobs, for sure. Yeah. I haven't had a trailer to myself since then. So I hope to have one again sometime soon.
So how did the transition work from? Yeah, how did the transaction work from from going from in front, because you do so many different things now? So I want to kind of hear about all of them. But what was the main impetus for the change, and the driving force that made you go in that direction?
Well, I I've never been able to sustain an acting career only by itself. I've always needed to make money, and it's very difficult to do that. At least it has been for me to make a living 100% from acting. And so that's rather a luxury in my view, and I've never had that luxury. I'm also not a Nepo baby. I don't know if you've ever heard that term, but that's another thing that's another term that's bandied around Hollywood these days, meaning someone who is a legacy, a show business legacy. So somebody who's comes from a famous show business family. Mm-hmm. That is not me. Sadly, I do not come from a show business family or an independently wealthy family. I'm not the prettiest girl in the room. I'm a quirky character type, so already I'm not castable in everything. So it was hard. And so that said, I loved all aspects of show business. I've always enjoyed writing, and I'm a curious person by nature, and I like to put people together, matchmaking, that type of thing. So I use those skills to work in other aspects of the business. And so I always had this James Bond-ish secret life of working in the business in some sort of desk or sometimes production on set capacity, but mostly like in an office working in creative development, which entails all the story planning that leads up to when the cameras roll or the animation starts in earnest. So that's mainly what I've done. I've worked in creative development, and then I'd have this secret life of sneaking off to auditions, making up every excuse. I even found in my desk just recently an old piece of paper I had from when I worked at Disney, and I brainstormed all these excuses that I could use as reasons why I had to dash off in the middle of the day and be gone for 2 hours. So physical therapy, family tragedy. I mean, nothing was off the table. And so as the years progressed and I was able to move up the ranks behind the scenes, it became less and less feasible for me to dash off and go to auditions. And then, God forbid, I book a job. And then, like with the pilot, it was a pilot, then it was a series for the NBC show that I just mentioned about Steve Carell. That was a 2-week commitment. And then the dates kept changing because, oh no, so-and-so, Steve Carell's not available on this date, so we're going to film on this date. And meanwhile, at that time, I was an assistant to the head of business and legal affairs at Disney Television. And I was expected basically to be chained to my desk most of the day. So that was one case where I thought I need to come clean, because unless my excuse is that I have some kind of psychotic break and I'm just all over the place, like my schedule is going to keep on changing. So I did come clean to my boss at Disney, and surprisingly, she was really excited about it, and she ended up coming to the taping that we did one live taping. The rest was smoke and mirrors. It looked like we were filming in front of an audience, but we weren't. But she came to the taping, and all was well. But I had a number of soul-crushing experiences where I was cast in something, and then a huge event was happening at the office that was my day job. And I just, for instance, one time when I was working at RGH Entertainment, the Princess of Jordan was coming to our office, and I was in charge of all the festivities and whatnot. And then I booked a national commercial that was shooting on the same day. And I just couldn't do it. I know, I just couldn't. And commercials are generally lucrative, but not as consistent, and not like a regular job that would employ me for years. So I had to choose, and I had several experiences like that. So at a certain point, I thought, I just can't do the auditioning anymore and like put so much of myself into, please hire me, please, for this one day job, as fun as it is, and then either get rejected or then get cast and then can't do it.
And they can't do it or jeopardize your main career, for sure. So, yeah, I guess we can call you like an idea person, because not only all these ideas to get out of work, but now you're actually coming up with ideas for entertainment. So
yes,
what's your process? Like when you're coming up with an idea, either for a storyline or a new concept altogether, like what goes into that? Like, you just scribble ideas, you just brainstorm, you take a walk in the park. What do you do?
Yeah, well, I draw a lot from my own life. If I'm creating something original, there's some part of me in it. I will admit I am not very good at jumping into somebody's life who is not relatable to me and writing from that perspective. I could have people as characters who I don't have a personal stake in, but most of the characters that I create, and this is talking about original stuff. It's some aspect of my personality. Now, sometimes I'm hired to write. I'm hired to write on other people's projects or develop, which is everything that comes up to the point of where a project is greenlit, and then you're going to be creating scripts or something on a more consistent basis. I can do that, and then you're just following somebody else's blueprint. You'll get a style guide, or there will be some rules for the universe that you're working in, and you follow the rules, and usually it turns out okay, unless there are forces beyond it, unless there's conflicting notes or what have you. And then other times I look for intellectual properties that can be optioned and then turned into something for the screen or audio or a video game or a combination of all those things. So ideas can come from anywhere, and it depends also on where my paycheck's coming from. So whoever is paying me is the boss of me, and
no doubt. So you have to adjust your ideas for what they're looking for to an extent.
Yes.
Now, in all different realms of entertainment, there's adult. I don't mean adult. I mean non-children. Your focus, you have a lot of interest, I think, on the children's side of things. Or
yes,
where do you like to spend most of your time?
Yes. Well, okay. So for the main thing that has employed me for most of my years in the business has been kids and family driven entertainment, especially animation, a lot of stuff from overseas. So I've worked on foreign intellectual properties that are then translated and adapted and localized for different territories. And so that I got into that fairly early, and it was through temping. Early in the time that I moved to Los Angeles, I signed up with a temp agency, and I was placed as a temporary assistant at the office of a gentleman named Frank Ward, who was the retired president of Bandai America, a Japanese toy company that was responsible for Power Ranger toys for a long time until they sold all their interests to Hasbro. But so I was hired as the full-time assistant 2 weeks into the temp job, and I ended up working there for over 5 years.
Wow.
So that was my entree into the behind-the-scenes world of kids and family entertainment, plus Japanese adaptations, because Bandai is a Japanese company that had a home office in Los Angeles. And so, and by golly, that all stuck. I don't know. All those things followed me my whole career. So I always thought that I would work in sitcoms, because sitcoms, that was my obsession as a kid. And I loved it. I loved the idea of it, because especially multicam sitcoms are very much like doing theater.
Yeah.
You have rehearsals, and then you record in front of an audience, and there's that live aspect to it. And comedy was also one of my loves. But I didn't really break into that world in a big way. So I just embraced what came to me, which is kids and family entertainment. But as far as what
I have to stop you right there for a second because I'm a sitcom guy myself. So,
oh yeah,
look back 20 years or whatever to your childhood. What were some of the shows? So I can talk about sitcoms forever. What were some of the shows that really made an indelible imprint on you?
Okay, well, some of my favorites of all time are Mama's Family, which was derived, from the Carol Burnett show. So it was originally a sketch there, then became the sitcom. So Mama's Family is one of my favorites. Laverne and Shirley, one of my favorites.
Okay.
And then skip forward a few. I love the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And then fast forward a few more years from that, Everybody Loves Raymond, The King of Queens.
We still watch every night on TV Land. We're laying in bed. We go to TV Land and watch Raymond every night. And I think I've seen every episode about 20 times.
Same.
But
yes.
Yeah, and I still laugh at the same things I laughed at the first time. I still laugh at because it's just a brilliant cast. It's just funny content.
Yes.
It's just brilliant.
And so relatable. And my parents are his parents. My mother has said the exact, and my mom, it's funny because my mom can watch Everybody Loves Raymond and not laugh at all. Like it's just not funny to her because it just sounds like regular conversation in the Sharp household. But my brother and I are really the ones who get the most entertainment out of it because of the relatability factor. But that's funny that there's something universal in that comedy. And I was very fortunate. I worked with Ray Romano on a project that never saw the light of day. It was a pilot for something that Jason Alexander wrote and starred in. And so I was in the pilot. I had a small speaking part, so I wasn't really and also it didn't go forward, so that was the end of that. But on set that day was Jason Alexander and Ray Romano, and it was just Seinfeld, of course. That's another of my favorites.
Of course,
and it was just like sitting around. It was in the most unassuming setting. We filmed it in this strip mall in the West Valley, not far from where I live. So it was just like this little storefront that hadn't been rented out, and it was just like concrete floors, and they had set up the part where the filming was happening was all set dressed and everything, but the place where the actors were, it was just basically like the sheetrock, exposed sheetrock, concrete, and then a table for craft services, and people were sitting on the floor and so forth. And then there was Ray Romano was in that shoot, Jason Alexander, and also Charles Shaughnessy, who played.
Oh, I know. I know who he is from The Nanny.
The Nanny, yes. And so it was just, I was speechless because just to be sitting on the floor and hanging with these comedy legends, plus Charles Shaughnessy, I loved him way before The Nanny because he was.
I know where you're going to say you loved him from. I know where you're going to say.
Wow!
My sister watched Days of Our Lives.
Are you sure we're not related?
We
might be.
I remember my sister always used to have that show on. And I remember when The Nanny came on, I'm like, I recognize this guy from somewhere. Yeah. Yes, I know. So versatile. I mean, he was a legend on Days of Our Lives. Right.
A soap opera superstar. And how many soap opera superstars are able to make that leap
they're
into
not many.
comedy? No. So to get to work with them was really, really special. But it sounds like we have the same taste. For a while, for many years, I could only watch TV Land because just a variety of things going on in my personal life, and I just couldn't it's like comfort food to me, and I just felt like I couldn't take anything edgier than that in my personal entertainment viewing, and TV Land has carried me through some tough times with their nostalgia.
Of the more recent ones that are now on reruns, we watch a lot of Modern Family, and of course Big Bang Theory.
Oh yes. Those are two classics.
When we're eating dinner, the TV's on. Usually, we'll be on like TBS or something, and they show nonstop Big Bang Theory at night. So we'll usually catch 1 or 2 episodes a night, and then we switch over to TV Land usually around 9:00. Yeah,
I love Big Bang Theory for the nerd humor, the Comic-Con style or subject matter, because that's very much the world that I work in. And while it is not my preference as a consumer of entertainment, I know more than the average person about nerd culture. So I love to laugh at, I love it's almost like self-deprecating humor.
Yeah, well, the funny thing about that show is I love that show so much, and it's very driven around their love for Star Trek and Star Wars. And I have never seen an episode of a Star Trek, and I've never seen a Star Wars movie. So
what?
Those are just they are of no interest to me. I'm not into that realm of entertainment. So for me to like the show is kind of, like it's bizarre.
Isn't that fascinating? Wow. I would love to do a psychological study of you.
People
Michael,
have wanted to do psychological studies on me for a long time. Yeah.
Because I hate to stereotype, but you are of the generation who would be like the OG fan of Star Wars. I mean,
there's usually a reason I start watching a show. Like something brings me to that show.
Yeah.
So for the Big Bang Theory, it was Kaylee Cuoco, because I was a huge growing up. One of my favorite sitcom actors was John Ritter. And John Ritter was starring that show, 8 Simple Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter or something, and she was the daughter. So when I heard she was going on this show, I really liked that show, so I kind of followed her over. And so that's kind of why I started watching it. I don't know if I ever would have gotten into it, but that's what brought me in, and I just thought it was just funny. I'm a Jewish guy. I like to make fun of the Jewish guy, and I have friends who are Indian and like making fun of the Indian. So I like it. I like when people get picked on, but not in an offensive way, and they do it all in just a funny, so the Star Wars thing never bothered me. Like I never understood when they talk about it, but it never bothered me. So to this day, I miss that show. I really used to look forward weekly for that show to come on, Originals.
Have you watched any of the other Chuck Lorre shows? Because he's
we can spend an hour talking Chuck Lorre. 2.5 Men was one of our favorites. I believe he was also the one with Mom, with Allison Janney.
How I Met. Oh yes, Mom. Yes, love that show.
Yeah,
that's
Mom's a very good show.
I forgot about that, but that one's more contemporary.
Yeah. So I think Chuck Lorre, that entire group, that writing team's they're just brilliant.
Fun fact: Chuck Lorre comes from the world of kids and family entertainment. In fact, my old boss at a company where I worked, RGH Entertainment. David Corbett was my old boss's name, and he worked at Marvel for a while. I think it was maybe in the late 80s, early 90s, and Chuck was one of the freelance writers that he hired. Wow. I believe he worked on Muppet Babies and some other like that. And I was floored when I heard that, first of all, that Chuck Lorre was in the charge of my former boss. I just thought that was hilarious. Yeah. And then also that he worked on these gentle children's shows that were not
right. And then you see 2.5 Men, which is the exact opposite of gentle humor.
Exactly. And then I admired him even more for making that leap from kids and family entertainment to big time comedy. It's just astounding, because that's hardly ever done, and of course something that I would love to have done but never did. But
right.
Wow, he is a genius. He's a comedic genius for sure.
There's a few people whose names you just know, and you go back to like Norman Lear with all of his sitcoms, and Chuck Lorre is to me in that realm. I mean, there's no other Norman Lear, but Chuck Lorre is as close as you're going to get.
Yes, I would agree with that 100%.
Yeah, I mean, those sitcoms, they'll never make those sitcoms again. Like the All in the Families, like an All in the Family would never be allowed to be on TV right now. So, it's when you go back and watch those,
and
you're like, oh my God, how is this possible?
I know, a beloved racist. It's so bizarre. Like, to try to explain it to people nowadays, it sounds like you're pulling somebody's leg. But and then all the spin-offs of it was not only was All in the Family so popular and so famous, there were all these shows that came from it that were hits in their own right.
Oh yeah. It's kind of like I don't know if you're a sports fan, it's kind of like in the NFL where they say they have a head coach, then he has assistant coaches and they become head coaches. And it's like they have a coaching tree that start from one guy. But it's kind of the same thing with a lot of sitcoms. A lot of the great sitcoms came from other sitcoms. And you look at your example, where you have the Jeffersons and you have Maude. And then you can look at Frasier, which is a legendary show. And a lot of times these spinoffs, sometimes even become bigger. As big as Cheers was, Frasier won every award known to man. So it's absolutely crazy. So that's interesting. I go back even further with the Different Strokes and Facts of Life, and
those are also great shows.
Yeah, so
love those.
So it's fascinating. So totally got off topic there, but totally worth it because I love talking sitcoms. So how do you see yourself now in the industry in the next few years? Like, if you could draw your perfect path now, what would you like to see happen to you professionally?
Well, I'd love to win an Oscar for Best Actress. I think that would be awesome.
Is there something else if that doesn't work out? Is there another direction you'd like to go? Well, just in the unlikely event that doesn't happen.
If my dog Blanche, if she could win the Oscar for Best Actress, I'd be just as happy. I am a shameless stage dog mother, and her successes are my successes. So I'm flexible. If she wins the Oscar or if I win, it's a victory for me either way.
Now, I did check out your Instagram. Is your dog the little white dog? I saw you.
She is.
What kind of dog is that?
She's a Bichon Poodle mix.
Okay.
Her name is Blanche DuBois Sharp.
When I first looked at your dog looked a lot like my dog. I have a Bichon Shih Tzu mix. And when I first looked at your dog, I literally did a double take because I'm like, that looks like my Louie. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. You know what? You are the second person in 2 days who I've talked to with a Shizon, is that what they're called? The mix.
I was told that mix is called what's called a Zukon Teddy's, but I was told the mix is called when I first got the dog, but I don't know if that's right. Okay. That's what I was told.
Okay, well, if Rob Feldman is watching this podcast, I'm bringing you into this discussion because you are the Shizon owner that I talked to yesterday, and I had never heard that of course, I guess people have those dogs and I've seen them, but I just didn't know that was a thing, an official designer dog designation. But
we weren't necessarily looking in that direction. We just fell in love with the dog. Our dog's 12 now, so much older, but it's a good mix. It's a good dog.
Oh yeah. And poodles and Bichons and Maltese and Shih Tzus, they have a lot of common ground, a lot of common traits, and they're so funny. They're very strong-willed and not the kind of dog for everybody. If you want more of like a passive experience in your dog caring, maybe that's not the dog for you. But if you enjoy like giving constant attention and such,
I don't mind it a lot of the time. Right now, when I'm in tax season, obviously we're a CPA firm you're talking to, so I'm in tax season. So when I get home late at night, I just want to lay down. But he's got other ideas, so not laying down until we get our quality time in together. So yeah.
Well, and bring him on the pod sometime.
And with COVID, be working home. Yeah. we
Oh, yes,
became connected.
yes.
So it's even worse now when I'm out there. When I get home, he's even more excited to see me now. Yeah. So
Yes.
it,
That COVID
it's all
bond
good
is
though.
hard to break.
Yeah. So looking back from when you wanted to go out to California and now you're here now, obviously besides
I'm
the
here.
wanting to win the Academy Award and all that kind of stuff, which I'm sure is going to happen in the next few years, are you happy with where
Of course.
your established place in the entertainment industry?
Not really. No.
Okay.
I always want better, and it's very hard for me to let go of some of my original dreams.
Sure.
So I feel like I haven't achieved what I wanted to achieve in acting for sure, but also in creating my own projects, I have created a lot, but I don't have a Chuck Lorre repertoire to brag about today. I'm very sorry to say. I would love that, and I would love. I feel like I should have had the career of Tina Fey. That's the career I would like to have, like Tina Fey or Mindy Kaling, or even like Reese Witherspoon, or somebody who's able to create or develop projects based on other people's intellectual property, but tweak them for themselves, and then just act in them and just do whatever they want and have people throw money at them. That's what I want. That's what I want.
My favorite part of what you just said was the people throwing money at you. I'm all for that. Yes.
Yes. Yes. And but I oftentimes feel that I just need to settle for what comes my way, if anything, because there's a harsh reality in Hollywood, and that is ageism, especially in terms of female talent. And so lucky for me, I've never been the glamour girl. So in fact, when I was in high school, my high school drama director wrote a letter of recommendation for me for acting scholarships, and his key takeaway was Marlene is adept at playing the elderly. So this was when I was 16. So I've always had an unusual talent that was, and as far as I know, Vicki Lawrence is pretty much the only person who's ever made a career out of being younger and then playing elderly. But
I got one for you.
Hopeful. Oh, who else?
Estelle Getty.
Oh yes, that's true. That's true. She
was the youngest one of the four.
Right. Okay.
Now, don't get me wrong, she wasn't 30 years old, so it's a little. Vicki Lawrence is a better example. I'll give you that. But I remember as a kid being fascinated when I learned that she was the youngest of the four, playing the oldest one. I remember. I actually remember first learning that and being like, "Wow."
Yeah, and it was rare to. I can't remember ever seeing her in a photo where she was not made up like Sophia. Like I don't know what she looked like in her regular. She could have been unrecognizable, and folks just didn't know it.
You'll really laugh at my movie taste right now. There was one movie she was in where she looked like herself, and I don't know if you ever heard of this movie. And I'll tell you who starred in it, and two decent names were the stars of it. Have you ever heard of a movie called Mannequin?
Yes.
Andrew McCarthy. Before Kim Cattrall was Kim Cattrall.
That's right. Before, Sex and the City. But that was like her big breakout, wasn't it? I mean,
Estelle Getty played, I think, the manager of the store, but it was the actual Estelle Getty, not Sophia Estelle Getty.
Oh wow. Okay, I'm gonna check that out. I'm gonna hunt it down and watch it, because that sounds like something that I would really love.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well, listen, you've been a lot of fun. I can talk to you for hours, because I think we have a lot in common with that. But I really want to thank you. Thank you for coming on. How could people follow you? Social media platforms, anything like that?
Yeah, my website is pinkpoodleproductions.com, and it connects to all my social outlets. I am a maniac on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is my social platform of choice. So please, everyone, link with me on LinkedIn. And I also run the Women in Animation LinkedIn group. So there's a bigger parent organization, Women in Animation, but we've built up our LinkedIn presence. We have over 22,000 members of the LinkedIn group, and so I'm the tour guide of the LinkedIn group, and very proud of it. So, but I am on Facebook and Instagram and so forth. So, but you can get to all those places by going to pinkpoodleproductions.com.
Perfect. Well, Marlene, thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Michael. It's been a pleasure here too.
Thanks for listening to Adeptus on Air. If you like this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. The views and opinions by the podcast speakers and guests are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of Adeptus. This podcast provides general information only and is not intended to constitute advice.